Alrighty. Today, I am joined by my wonderful husband, Mr. Brian Hua. And today, we are going to be talking about inner peace.
Oof.
If this is something that you struggle with or have challenges with, have a listen to this episode because I have historically been a more anxious person, someone who can get pretty emotional at times. And being with this dude for 22 years has truly helped me have a sense of calm and inner peace. So enjoy this episode. If you're a woman who's on a path of healing and transformation, it's time to live your heart out. My name is Nancy Ma, and I'm a physiotherapist, a family woman, and a dreamer just like you. Join me each week as I share a way of living where you'll feel more alive, vibrant, and free. So, babe, thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
So, I know I don't say this very often, but I truly appreciate how patient you are, how much peace you bring into our home, and what I've learned from you over the years in terms of staying calm whenever I face my fears. And I get worried about the future, about money, about all these different things. You are really good at keeping me grounded. So I want to take this opportunity to pick your brain and see what's behind that. So where does all this inner peace come from?
First off, when you said inner peace, I had this funny thing. It's like, well, where's all the outer peace? But anyway, that's how my mind works.
Oh, dad jokes. Okay.
Dad jokes, yeah. So, as you asked that question, because none of this is scripted, of course, right? Like, you just asked me to come on the show. We're talking about peace today. Cool. I really feel that it probably comes from, growing up in a family situation where there was a lot of craziness going on. My mom, being really mean to my dad when growing older, and I just had the opportunity to witness my dad be peaceful, even though there was like a shitstorm.
Okay, I take it back. You're not the most peaceful person I know. It's your dad. Yes, this is true. This is where you get it from. Because if there was a man who could handle a lot of tumultuous environment, it would be your dad. But okay, so yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, if I really had to, go back to maybe where it came from. Because I would have conversations with my dad about it. I'm like, yo, mom is saying this to you. She's saying all these things. Like, how are you just kind of not affected, right? And we would have full-on conversations about it. So he did help me really develop this sense of peace that I can,
So what does that look like? So what did you witness in your home growing up?
Well, my mom would be very loud and demanding and critical and these are understatements, okay? So we don't need to get into the details.
No.
But
what did the inner peace part look like from your dad's part?
He would just carry on doing normal things and not really seem angry or annoyed or anything really. And so I was curious because on TV, when somebody says something, the other person gets offended.
You react
or upset.
Yeah.
And he just seemed to have this ability to just have it bounce off him like rain, on an umbrella or something.
Yeah, I would say for sure over the years you became more peaceful. I mean, we've been together for 22 years. When we first started going out, I was that girl who I would say, tried to control things, and I was very anxious, and I got stressed easily, and I was always like, we need to do this, we need to do that, and you were definitely very patient then, but I would say even as we've been together over the years, you've become even more patient and calm. And that has really affected me. And even this past year, I've had 3 or 4 separate occasions where people have thanked me for being so calm in situations. And I just found that so, I was so proud of that because you know what I was like when we were much younger. And, you know, that's something that I really, I feel I can attribute a big part of that to your presence. So as I was saying, you become more peaceful over the years.
Yes.
It didn't just come to you by osmosis through your dad. I think you learned some of those initial skills. But why was it important to you to have this peace?
It's so important simply because, you know, we can be in our heads so much of the time, and the stories that sometimes we keep telling ourselves are really nasty, right? And the things that we replay, and you know, the things that happened in the past, all those things can really drag you down. So it's so important simply because if you can somehow be present, even though those stories try to get into your head all the time, then you can be there for your family. You can be there for your kids. You can be there for your wife and all those people that look up to you.
So describe what inner peace looks like to you. I know we're saying this phrase a lot, inner peace, but what does that mean to you and what does that actually look like?
Okay. So I'll give you an example.
Uh-huh.
In the past, I used to really get bogged down by what my mom would say.
Okay.
I had major issues around my mom growing up. And after we got married, you know, there were times where I didn't want to see her that much because she would just say sometimes the rudest comments. Like, you know, it was that type of thing. And deep down, I really wanted to be able to be around my mom because I love
of
my
course,
mom,
yeah.
you know, and so essentially I developed a way to really learn how to accept my mom for the way that she is, not trying to change her.
Right.
Because me needing her to be something else that she most probably can't be is going to cause me grief and pain inside. So that's just a small little example. So now
that's a big example.
Well,
I mean, I think a lot of us can say at some point that we have parent issues, you know, and I've spoken about this before on this podcast of how much our parents and their opinions of us and how that affects how we live and carry ourselves.
Yeah.
And I remember the time that it was 2016. I was pregnant with Wesley. You had gone to see Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
UPW, Unleash the Power Within, right?
Yep.
And
that was the one.
That's when you came home from that, your relationship with your parents shifted. And I would say that whole year or time in our lives is when you really shifted to becoming such a more grounded and peaceful guy. Because before that, yes, you've always been patient, but there are times where you have lost it and you've been, you know, when you play sports and you lose it on the judge, or even that time in physiotherapy school when you had challenges with school and the dean and you were struggling with whether or not you were going to graduate. I remember that being very stressful then. And now we deal with even more stressful situations and no one would ever know by your demeanor because you keep the peace. So tell us about that shift or that time in your life.
Which one was that? The 2016 one?
Yeah. So after you came back from Tony Robbins and there was a shift. So describe that shift and how that came about for you. So
the one idea that I got from that trip that really stood out for me, pertaining to my mom especially, is, you know, you've become this person, right? Today, this is who you are. This is what you're like. But you wouldn't be that person without your mom or your dad or all those experiences that shaped you to become
the failures, the heartbreak.
Right, all those experiences. So he said, I believe it was the line, you know, if you're successful now, then you can also go ahead and blame your mom for that, just by for her showing up the way that she did to cause you to learn the lessons that you did and face the hardships and the darkness that you did. So you can go ahead and blame her for that too. And that's how he phrased it. I'm like, whoa. That's totally opposite of how most people think.
Right.
And then from that point on, I made it a conscious effort to just love on her more and really be forgiving and just empathetic in a way where, you know, I literally was able to take a step back and say, well, I told myself that I don't know what she's been through. She doesn't even like to talk about what she's been through.
Right.
Okay. She came up in Vietnam, which is, you know, a communist country. They went through war. There was a lot of crazy stuff, and she had tons of siblings, and they weren't very nice to her, you know, when she was younger, in the little bits that she would share with me. So I don't really know what she's gone through, and I was able to be a little bit more empathetic. I was able to get myself to love on her more. In you know, I would hug and kiss her and really mean it.
Yeah.
You know, and that had a huge impact on our relationship, because when that happened, like, you remember this, she started caring for my ailing grandmother.
Right.
And they didn't like each other at all.
They didn't have a relationship for 30 years.
They didn't have a relationship for 30 years. My mom literally prohibited us to go visit her when I was younger, and it was just such a weird thing. But then when I showed her love, my theory, my theory is that she saw how my dad's mom is aging.
Yeah.
And she went and did a total 180 and started becoming sweet to her.
Yeah.
You know, started bringing her kanji to
the
nursing home. And I saw my mom and dad hold hands for the first time ever.
Yeah.
Like, I've never seen that before, ever. And
so you're taking credit for all that.
All of it. All of it.
Well, you know, I remember that shift very vividly, because when you really changed your relationship with her, I saw how much that softened her. And I think it's through accepting and not combating, because it was, you always been accepting of who I am, but I think you had, in a way, maybe these expectations we have of our parents, as much as parents we have expectations of our children, children also have expectations of our parents. And so when she would say something to you, you would be combative in response, and then there would just be this tension in the air.
Immediately triggered.
And
what did you say?
And I would be around that, and I would feel very uncomfortable and not want to ever hang out there because of that tension. But when you shifted, she was so much sweeter and she was nicer to me, and I saw how, like, truly accepting someone and finding inner peace in yourself can, you know, have this ripple effect where, you know, other people are feeling more calm and peaceful at heart.
When you said that, I thought of, this is like a hack.
Okay.
Pretty much, you know, if you want them to be nicer to you, or you want to be able to be around them, you just got to find it somewhere within yourself to be that person for them. And you're just hacking the system, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, it changes the wiring. And this is how powerful emotions are and how contagious emotions are, that it takes a very simple creature to be angry. And it makes sense. If you see someone angry, someone punches you or slaps you or hurts you, it's very animalistic and instinctive for us to respond with that level of energy.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes consciousness, intention, and a sense of grounding to do what your dad did, or to live the way your dad lived, and let it bounce off you, or let it trickle off you without penetrating your system or your consciousness. And I really believe that was the time in our lives that we just became that much more grateful. I think sure, gratitude is something that's on, you know, every, you know, desk, or
so many people
be grateful
lip
and
service
exactly. But to me, we didn't just pay it lip service. We embodied it, because it's easy to say things with your words and to live up in your head. But we completely started embodying gratitude for everything. And I feel like
Right.
you living here, it's easy to do that when we're surrounded by nature, we're outside all the time. And we are truly grateful for all of our lived experiences, including the ones that challenged us, shaped us, hurt us, kicked us, beat us down. And we have risen above those times with gratitude. And gratitude is, to me, a big part of, your peace.
Yeah, but speaking about that though, you bringing this up, don't get me wrong. I've been through a lot of dark, stages and rock bottoms and things that have really challenged me that fortunately have forced me to move towards the training, reading books on it, Eckhart Tolle and Michael Neal. Those are my two big heroes, Dr. Wayne Dyer. So it's not like I didn't seek out different perspectives on how I can become more peaceful. I didn't just do it for fun.
You weren't trying to be a monk?
No.
Okay.
No, not at all.
Well, you did shave your head at one point. Everyone thought that's what you were. This is true. So, inner peace. It's funny because you did say, like, what about outer peace? And I think that people do look outwards externally for sources of peace.
Yes.
And the reason we keep calling it inner peace is because it can never come from an external source. Like, I can't rely on you to be my source of peace. And yes, I have benefited from you being peaceful, and it has, spread to me, permeated, but I can't depend on you for that. I have to find it within me to have a conscious intention of, I want to live this way. I talk a lot about energy, and then, sometimes we think of energy as like, this high of, we got to be energetic, we got to be loud and boisterous, and that's like having really big energy. But energy is also having peace and having flow and that sense of calm. You can think of a babbling brook as, a peaceful entity or phenomenon. And sorry, I thought you were going to say something.
I can say something.
Say something.
So, a lot of people, including myself, we've dealt with stress. Stress is a normal thing. Anxiety, being worried about, oh my goodness, what happens if this doesn't happen? Then this will happen. My experience with my peace training, we can call it peace training. I'm a peace officer.
Okay.
No, pretty much allows me to, get rid of those stories for the most part and actually be able to be here and be present. Because that's the most important thing, is your ability to be present, so that you can experience the only thing that's real, which is this present moment.
Right. And you have been on me about that for so long, but I think that I'm getting it. I really do. Historically, I'm the one who's in my head all the time, on my phone all the time, in this house, in our home. I'm the planner. I'm thinking about what the kids are going to eat, what birthday parties are coming up, what appointments to take them to. And I'm just planning. And often I live in the future. And in a way, that's a form of anxiety. I didn't used to think that I was anxious because I'm not one to have a nervous breakdown, or I wouldn't be stressed about it and it wouldn't keep me up at night. Or maybe it does keep me up at night in a way that I'm excited about things. But you have always just been on me for being in the moment. And I really have learned that from you. Well, at least from your constant nagging. I think that has helped and gotten through at some point. And I believe that, the entrepreneur's journey of wanting to be a better person, up leveling and wanting more out of life is one of the most spiritual journeys we can embark on, aside from becoming a parent. I mean, to me, that's my two greatest spiritual journeys. But I feel that as part of that journey, as an entrepreneur, I have felt it's just this constant chasing. And when you're chasing, it can get very tiring. And what I've seen from other people in the industry is the sense of like dissatisfaction of, yeah, I'm going to go for this. And then when I have this house, I'm going to upgrade the house. When I have this car, I'm going to update the car. When I make this much amount of money, it's not good enough. There's more, more. And I think I've spoken to this before, but what I really learned from Brendan Burchard is that there's a sense of healthy striving where you can, or I think he even calls it fulfilled striving, where you can reach from a place of fullness, from a place of being enough. And then there's also lack striving, for lack of a better term. It's you're chasing because nothing's ever good enough. And I've been there. And it sucks. That feeling of like, oh, this is not good enough. I want more. I'm going to work on perfecting this video and this script. And it's like you're constantly fixing. You're working on things for the future and you're always worried about it. And it's never enough. And that is so stressful. It's such a stressful way of being and living and experiencing the world. Yeah.
As you were saying that, I have another example of, when I dealt with some really tough times, and then I'll share what happened. There was this time where we were running weddings here on this property, making really solid money. And then, the neighbors, complained and it all got shut down. I'm not going to make a long story. But after that happened, because of the lack of human interaction between us and the neighbors, and we weren't really getting along because we just lost,
our business, our livelihood, making,
right? And
how we can afford to live here,
right?
Yeah.
So I, for whatever reason, I just went through this really dark spiral. I couldn't create any income for over a year. Mm-hmm. And the story I was telling myself was, I'm so useless. I can't contribute to the family, and oh my goodness, this is horrible. And that every day I woke up and that would be the story that's playing in my head.
Yeah.
So joining it to what you were saying is, looking back at that, I could not create enough value from that place to earn income, even if I wanted to.
With that self-talk. With that self-talk, you're not going to be able to get to a point where you could do more, have more, be more, because you're in lack. And lack is not a peaceful place to be. And when I say lack, I mean not enough. You don't have enough or enough.
There's not enough to go around.
Yep.
Like that's an example.
It's a very tumultuous, dark place to be. And not to say that we are like Zen masters and
speak for yourself.
We're on our way to being monks, although that is my life goal. Just kidding. We definitely have moments of lack and all that, but I for sure way more than you.
It's not a competition.
No,
but I'm winning.
Okay. But when I do experience that, I name it, I call it, I was just like, there's the monster. It's a lack. I'm in lack. Like when I was doing the taxes last week and I was like, oh snap, that's a lot of taxes to pay. And then this is happening and that's happening and we're going down. And then I'm spiraling and I can feel like it's almost like a visceral, like a physical feeling of spiraling. But I'm like, I've been here before. I call it out. I'm in lack. And I'm like, babe, I'm feeling lack. I'm feeling overwhelmed. And we have this pattern of like, we call it out and then he usually, okay, let's go. We'll go outside. We go for a walk. And then we just walk through. It's the same story we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
Of, do you want to walk me through like what the story usually is? It's a say. I would say in
let's role-play this.
In a 7-day week, I would say I would do half a day every week in 7 days in lack, in fear mode, like
half a day.
Yeah. Yeah. So like 1 out of 14. What's the math on that? Less than 10%. 1/14. So less than 10% of the time. Let's move 5 to 8% of the time, which is pretty good. Because even if it was 49% of the time, that means I'm fulfilled more than I'm in lack and I can move forward. When people live in lack, when they live it with a sense of torment in their hearts, you can't move forward. It's a very ugly place to be, and it really grinds away at your soul.
Yeah.
So let's run through the dialogue. So we'll backtrack a couple of weeks. We have this big tax bill to pay, and I'm paying it. I'm calculating because I'm the one who's responsible for doing all the numbers, and I'm looking at the bank account, and I'm like, babe, we have this. We have to pay in taxes. Then we have $100,000 for the backyard renos, and we have this payment and this payment. I'm feeling overwhelmed right now. I wanna stop doing the podcast. I want to stop. I want to stop doing the renovation. Maybe we call it off. I'm in lack. I'm backpedaling. I'm contracting.
Yeah.
And so so what did you say to me?
Yeah. So you just share this with me, and I would normally just say, oh, okay, thank you for sharing. Then I just start asking a bunch of questions to
just ask me
to pretty much force you to go inside.
Yeah.
Questions like, okay, so does this mean, let's say, for example, you're like, oh, well, I want to just cancel my business.
Yeah. Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And I say, okay, well, then I would ask you something maybe along lines of, well, but what happens with all those people that are waiting for you to show up for them, to teach you all these things, to get them out of their own darkness? Are you just going to stop it just because of money?
No.
Okay. So I would have these questions like that.
Yeah.
And any questions that stood out, because when I was speaking with you, I was pretty much in the moment. It's hard for me to remember on the spot. So what sorts of things do you remember me walking you through? Or
well, to be fair, you're not a very wordy person.
No.
Not that you're not articulate, but it's your energy, your presence that I feel held and I feel safe. So when I'm in this period of tumultuousness, just being able to tell you without you judging me makes me already feel better. Because in the past, you didn't like it when I was stressed.
No.
Because you would get stressed. So if I was stressed about something, you'd be like, well, why are you stressed about that? Well, that's just silly. You shouldn't be stressed about that.
Or think about it like that.
Yeah, like when I have my annual seasonal affective disorder for 6 months of the year, you'd be like, why are you like that? You shouldn't be like this. So now I tell you and you're like, instead of judging me for it, you're like, okay, well, thank you for telling me how you feel. Why do you feel this way? And what can I do to help? And then we just talk about, okay, so what are we grateful for? And then we go back to gratitude. Like, look at everything we have. Like our affirmation is we have everything that we need in the world to be happy and to have peace. We really do. And that everything is access to love. We all have love. We all have access to nature. And when we remember that, it's like, oh, this relief. And then we talk about, when's the last time we were at zero? And we're like, oh yeah, we've been at this point before where we
no money in our bank account.
No money in our bank account, feeling in a dark place, feeling in a low, being in fear. And we're like, but we got out of that time, remember? Oh yeah, we did that. We did it with love and we had each other. And we're like, oh yeah. And it's just like, okay, well, what happens if worst case scenario? This is a big one.
Yeah.
What's the worst case scenario? So we lose it all. We lose all the money in the world. And then what? Well, we still have each other and we still have our health. And the good thing is we know what it's like to not lose our health or our family, but to lose money. We've had that experience several times, in big chunks. And it takes having been there that it's like, oh yeah, it's not that scary. Because I know the reality is we'll never end up in the streets. If anything, we could always sell our house and go move to Thailand or Vietnam and live like kings for the rest of our life. Like we have that option. So it's like going back and just remembering, and this is something I would really recommend, is to have a list of stories that you tell yourself when you're not feeling calm or peaceful. Just these reminders of, oh yeah, you have an experience that you want to bring to mind. Or have, an affirmation or a story, because that's really what helps us. And then it's really just a matter of let's do a I think Tony Robbins called like a change of state. And this is a big reason why we have a cold plunge. And often when I'm in luck, I just jump in the cold plunge, and that just wakes me right up, gets me out of my funk.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh yeah, I've done hard things before. If I can do this cold plunge, I can do anything, you know? Or, you know, we go for a walk, and that's always beautiful and helpful.
One of the things that I just remembered, one of the things that you brought up recently was you were afraid that it wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
You know, whatever the thing was.
Yeah.
And I said to you, well, okay, if you go forward and it doesn't work, are you just going to quit?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So having you face that possible reality,
yeah,
right, helps.
Yeah,
Yes.
For sure. And something you always say to me too is like, we're not supposed to know. You know, this is like going to a basketball game. We're not supposed to go and know exactly who's going to score and at what point and who's going to win the game, because then what's the point of showing up? What's the point of participating or playing the game?
Nobody would be there.
Yeah, we're doing it for the experience. And when I remember that, it's like, I'm not doing it for the end result of that thing, whatever that thing may be. We're doing it for the experience. And when we remember that, it's like, oh, it's calming. It's calming. And when we live from that place, that to me is truly inner peace. And, you know, if it was a game, I would definitely win because you taught me how to play this game and I beat you at it because like we wear aura rings.
Yeah, these rings.
And don't stick your middle finger at the audience, please. So we wear these rings and it keeps track of our sleep. And we're very competitive. This helps our inner peace. It really does. And since he got me to wear it because he tracks his sleep, and it's a reflection of, I think, how peaceful you are, how rested you are if you can go to sleep at night. There's a reason why, you know, it's well documented that men can just go to bed, their head hits the pillow, and they fall asleep. And women in general, we're up at night thinking about the to-do lists and all that stuff. And so when he got me the Oura ring for my birthday last year, then it's like, oh, now this is being tracked. I have to be conscious of this. I did everything possible to maximize my sleep, and I average an 88 score, which is higher than Crown, which is an 85. And yes, I'm very proud of this because I've taught everything I've took everything you taught me and mastered it and beat you at your own game. So there. So what that means is really harnessing that peace so that when I go to bed at night, I fall asleep within 10 minutes, which was not my norm before. I would definitely be the last to fall asleep and I'd be up until much later, just thinking about stuff. But since I know this is being tracked, I make sure that I do the red light before I sleep. I take a hot bath or I go into our hot tub. I don't eat anything after 7 p.m. at night or 6 p.m. or I make sure I don't eat 3 hours before sleep. I don't drink any water so that I don't wake up in the middle of the night to go to bed. I do all these things and all of that helps. But the thing that helps the most is truly accepting and being present and being off my phone.
You're welcome.
Definitely before sleep. And what's your average score of sleep? Just to share with everybody.
I've been tracking for the last 3 years now. It's probably around 83.
Yeah, which is good. It's a decent score. It's a decent score. But you can't beat me. Yeah, so amazing. Anyway, of course we're being facetious, kind of.
No.
But I want to thank you for being here. I hope that if you're listening or watching, that you can take bits of that, incorporate it into your lifestyle, and really think about how you can bring more peace into your life, into how you show up at work and how you interact with people and how you run your home or your business. Because when you can live in this place, anything is possible. When you can live in a place of being already fulfilled, it means that you're not needy because you already have everything you need. Everything else is just a bonus, right? So when you live from that place of peace and everything's such a bonus, you're not desperate. And when we approach life with that sense of anxiousness or stress, then everybody around you can feel it. It's, if you're going to a car shop or any kind of shop and the salesperson approaches you, that they're trying to sell you something, and nobody likes that, right? It's that sense of like neediness.
Mm-hmm.
But when you can approach life of like being already satisfied, content, fulfilled, it actually opens more doors because people can trust you more. They don't feel repelled by being in your presence, and they feel even attracted to your energy. And I feel like we have leveled up like 1 billion fold since really just understanding this piece. And to be honest, I've poo-pooed it for so many years because I was just like, I don't need to work on peace. I need to work on like building my confidence. I need to work on just a whole bunch of skills and mindsets that people think of in general for successful people. Like being monk-like or being at peace isn't usually high up there on the list.
No.
But I would say for sure, since we have really taken that to heart, our lives are that much more abundant.
Yeah, because your health gets better, your relationships get better, and you can make more money from a place of peace because you don't need anything.
Yeah, for sure.
And people sense that. They're like, oh, you don't need me to buy the thing, so I'll buy the thing because everybody else needs me to buy the thing.
Right. It's this detachment.
Yeah. I'm in sales, so that's why.
Yeah, I know. And when you started being more peaceful, because I mean, you've been in sales forever. And when before you would make a sale or you didn't make a sale, you'd come, for dinner, like you would take that energy with you, and you'd be like dissatisfied with the steak. Why is the steak so cold? Or why is it overdone? But now you just approach everything with gratitude and peace. And it's like, yeah, you made tons more money and I'm not going to yell at you for complaining about the steak. You get what you get and you don't get upset. That's what we learn from the kids, right? So, well, thank you for being here. It's always fun as usual. I love our talks. And I hope that that was a shitty high five. Let's do it. Okay, that's better. Anybody who's watching, I hope that you get more peace out of this. You get some inspiration to really apply this to your life. I'd love to hear your comments below. Let me know like how you're doing with your inner peace, where you're at in your journey. If you like this episode, please comment, share with any friends who need it. We're also on your favorite podcast channels. Check us out on Spotify and iTunes. And make sure you take us out for your walk next time you go. So see you next time.
Peace.
And remember to live your heart out and be peaceful.